Hello and welcome. This is Eliyahu ben David, anglicized that's Eliyahu ben David. You can pronounce it either way. I'm here today to talk about the grand sextiles. That's how they're referred to often by others. I prefer to call them the Star of David planetary alignments. There happens to be one today when I put this information together, which is July 29th, 2013. Well, I've been asked about what this particular planetary alignment means, and I think the reason is there's been lots of buzz about this on the internet. And I have talked about signs in the sky in the past. I'm primarily a messianic teacher of the scriptures. I do this on my radio programs. I have over 400 hours of teaching on the radio. I have several books that I've written, and this is something that I have talked about among many other topics in the scriptures. You might wonder why someone who teaches the scriptures would be interested in planetary alignments in the heavens. To some people this seems very incongruous. The reason is because I'm one of the Talmudim of Yeshua Messiah, that is, a disciple of Jesus Christ. And Yeshua Messiah gave signs of the last days. And in my ministry, I teach that the last days began in 1967 when Jerusalem was recovered by Israel. That, by the way, is included in the same chapter, Luke chapter 21. Here in this chapter, it lays out signs to look for of this final generation. And of course, we're now deep into that time. And it says there will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on the earth anxiety of nations. We certainly have anxiety of nations on the earth. But what does it mean when it says signs in the sun, moon, and stars? This is in fact a reference back to the book of Genesis in what we call the Torah. In fact, I am teaching lessons on the Torah right now in our radio station, which you can find at Zion.org. What it shows us there is that in the beginning, when God, whose name is Yahweh, created the universe and then created the starry heavens, he put the sun, the moon, and the stars in the sky as signs. That's what it says, signs. Therefore, here in Luke, when Yeshua Messiah is talking about signs in the sun, moon, and stars, it's really talking about the same thing that it's talking about there in Genesis. Well, what are these signs? This can include simple things like marking out time, like days, months, and years. This is marked out by the movement of the heavenly bodies. These are signs. But also, there's something in the sky that the Bible calls the Mazzaroth. And from our point of view here on earth, the heavens extend around the earth as if they're a giant belt. You can think of them as a giant viewing screen that goes all the way around our planet. And as you look at this viewing screen, as we pass around, or really as this belt passes around us, what we see is a progressive story that unfolds for us in the constellations. These constellations each have a different meaning. And this was passed down, this information was all passed down through Adam when mankind was created. And it was known to what we might call the sacred line or the holy line of Seth before the flood. As I mentioned, this is called the Mazzaroth in the scriptures. Well, how did the Mazzaroth become astrology? Because you know what? The Mazzaroth was perverted into astrology. How did that happen? Well, in the book of Genesis, it tells us about angels that sinned, that actually materialized human-like bodies in coming down to earth, and they introduced what we now know as astrology, which is really a perversion of the meaning of the Mazzaroth signs for use in divination, sorcery, and magic. So we're entirely opposed here to astrology, which is the perversion of the signs that Yahweh put in the sky. However, Yeshua Messiah told us specifically to look for these signs in the sun, moon, and stars as signs of the last days. This is something entirely different than astrology. How is it different? Because we do not use the signs in the sky to forecast our own personal future. We do not do horoscopes and all of those kinds of things. This is forbidden in the Torah. Messianic people don't do that. However, it's very different to observe the signs that Yahweh put in the heavens, because He put them there. And He wants us now to look at these signs to determine their meaning regarding His will. This is why He put them there. That's why we're looking at this. So that is the reason we're looking at this Star of David planetary alignment that is happening today, July 29th, 2013. I have one more thing to share about before I get to explaining regarding this Star of David planetary alignment. And that is about the Star of David itself. Many times I have readers or listeners who go to our website and they will see our logo. And they will notice that it has at its center what is often known as the Star of David, the Mogan David, the Shield of David, the Seal of David, the Seal of Solomon, and a number of other names located here at the center of this logo, which is the Messianic seal. The reason they're concerned is because, as they often point out to me, this particular symbol, the Star of David, is often used by occultists. It is assigned occult meanings. Often it is used in occult rituals. So folks that see this many times are concerned that this must indicate that our ministry is in some way connected with the occult. Well, that certainly is a mistake on their part. It's good, it's commendable that they're careful about that, because the occult can be very dangerous. But I want to explain to you now what the truth is regarding the Star of David. You see, David is an ancient ancestor of mine. And I can tell you some things about this that you're not normally going to find out. In the name David, in its original Hebrew, the first letter and the last letter is the Hebrew letter Dalet. Now, in the ancient Hebrew used in David's time, the Dalet looked like a triangle. It was analogous to the modern letter D. And if you look at a capital letter D, you can kind of see how that would derive from a triangle. Well, as I mentioned, There's a dalet at the beginning of the name and a dalet at the end of the name. So it is really these two dalets from the name of David that make up the Star of David. The dalet that points upward is pointing towards Yahweh in heaven. The dalet that points downward is pointing down from Yahweh to David. And together, what this symbolizes is the covenant between Yahweh in heaven and David on earth, known as the Davidic covenant, which is an eternal covenant. And David was the king of Israel and established a house, a royal line, on the basis of this covenant, so that the Star of David is the seal of David. It is actually in its infancy, in its original creation, it is the symbol of that covenant between David and Yahweh that his entire house and kingdom was based upon. Now, that's a very powerful thing. That is a symbol of tremendous authority from God to the house of David. And as we saw with the Mazzaroth, so also with this particular symbol, the powers of evil, the demonic powers of evil, have also adopted this symbol because of the fact that it is connected with such amazing spiritual power with God in a legitimate way. And they have perverted it for their own use, for use in magic, for use in the occult. Well, does their evil use of this particular symbol negate its original use and its original meaning? The answer is no. Because as we look at this messianic seal, I'd like to tell you, I didn't invent this seal. As you can see here, there's a number of artifacts that have been found. This was a number of years ago now. And this seal, called the Messianic seal, was actually found in an area that was used in the very first century by the assembly of James the Just. These were the people who were the very first believers in Yeshua Messiah that met there in Jerusalem. That's where these were found, and were part of this congregation of James the Just that he led. As a matter of fact, James the Just took up the leadership of this group of people that had been led by Yeshua Messiah before he himself was put to death, was raised, and ascended into heaven. Then James the Just, his earthly brother, became the leader of that group. And if you look closely at all of these artifacts, you will see that they all have some version of this messianic seal on them, because this in fact was the seal of James the Just. And that's because just as Yeshua Messiah is of the house of David, so was James the Just, and he was entitled to use this Star of David because it was the seal of his family. It was altered because of the change that had happened due to the coming of Messiah, so that now it included some other symbols along with the Star of David. You can see at the top of it, it has a menorah. This is the traditional symbol of Israel. And it has a fish, which is a traditional symbol of the nations, brought together in such a way that they're joined by the Star of David. So in this amazing symbol, we see represented how the house of David gathers together both the nation of Israel and the believers from the nations into one assembly. That's what this is about. Now, if Yeshua Messiah and the first leader of the early believers used the Star of David in the Messianic seal, and we have artifacts that prove it, why would I not use it? You see, the real meaning of all of this is what I'm representing by using this. That's why it was created. That's why it's on all these artifacts that were used by James the Just and the early assembly of believers. So having explained that about the Star of David, I want to go on now and talk specifically about the Star of David alignment. In this slide, what we have is a typical astrology report on the July 29th, 2013 grand sextile. Now this is from the point of view of astrology. And as you'll see here, I have a disclaimer on the slide. It says, presented for purposes of an example only. This is not an endorsement. I do not endorse astrology. But I'm showing this to you so that you will know why this is being discussed right now. Because like I say, it's had a lot of buzz on the internet and people have been asking me about it. And what I've done is I've taken some information from some various websites where this has been talked about, and I pulled together the least offensive material that I could find without having a lot of astrological drivel, so that I can basically explain to you what the buzz is about that's on the internet, and then I can jump from there to explain what this is all about. Here's some comments about this taken from some websites on the internet about the grand sextile of July 29th, 2013, and you can see here that it's in the shape of a Star of David. All eyes on the sky as we near the super rare planetary alignment known as a grand sextile on July 29th, 2013. This cosmic geometry consists of three outer planets, Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter, forming an equilateral triangle, which they call a grand trine, in what they call the water signs, while the Moon, Pluto, and Venus form an interpenetrating grand trine in what they call the opposing signs of the Earth. Now, I don't subscribe to any of their meanings here. I'm just simply pointing out what they say about it, and that this alignment is reported to actually have happened and is happening on July 29th, 2013. This is what they say about it here. Although the interpretation of this many aspects is incredibly complex, most astrologers see the grand sextile as setting the stage with favorable conditions for sweeping changes. Let's hope for something special. So they themselves don't even know what it means, and they have highly varying interpretations of this, but generally they do see this as some sort of a portal into the supernatural, and they hope it's for something good. That may be neither here nor there to me. What I'm interested in is the fact that this alignment actually happened in the shape of a Star of David. If what I'm looking for is signs in the sun, moon, and the stars, and I realize that the Star of David has special biblical significance to David, to the house of David, and by extension to Israel, then when the shape of a Star of David actually appears in the heavens, I'm going to be interested in that, right? And that's why people have asked about it. Well, now let's get into what this is about. With this slide, I've put together an illustration for you that helps to explain exactly what has been going on regarding the Star of David planetary alignment of July 29th, 2013. What you can see from this chart, that's this particular alignment right here, is that this is not the only Star of David planetary alignment, but is in fact one of a series of 13 Star of David planetary alignments that began in 1990 and end in 2013, and then there's not another one for a long time. Now, in telling you about this is from information that I could gather on the internet. I'm a Bible teacher. I spend most of my time in the scriptures. I really don't have time to be out there looking with a telescope so as to see all of these things, okay? So I'm just being honest with you. I haven't verified this with my own eyes. This is information that I have gotten from those who do exactly what I'm saying. So I believe the information is accurate, but really I don't know myself because I am not a witness of it. And you need to understand that in what I'm talking about. These things I'm talking about today are not like Bible prophecy. Bible prophecy is absolutely certain, and it has a real meaning. These signs in the sky are, in fact, open to interpretation, and people can make mistakes about it, and all of that can happen. So that could be true here as well. And what I'm going to do is simply share with you the facts that I've uncovered and show you what they seem to indicate as we take a look at them. Well, as you can see, from 1990, there have been a series of 13 Star of David planetary alignments, ending in the year 2013. Now here I have a line. The arrow shows you that this line actually originates earlier, because what this line represents is the final generation timeline. According to the words of Yeshua Messiah, this generation that began in 1967, when Israel recovered control over Jerusalem, is the final generation, and it will end with the return of Yeshua Messiah and the end of this age and the beginning of the next one. So we're very interested in that happening. I think the fact that these Star of David planetary alignments began in 1990 and then have happened since then and increased in frequency even as we get up to 2013 shows you something about the time in which we're living, that things have intensified and things are moving forward with greater intensity all the time, and that is what has happened. The fact too that these are Star of David planetary alignments, regardless of what the astrologers tell you, that this might have something to do with you and in terms of your special energies and foretelling your future and so on. That's not what these are about. The Star of David is about rulership over Israel. And it's actually having to do with the Messiah, who is the king, the ruler in the line of David. But equally, this has to do with the nation of Israel. Now, when I talk about the nation, I'm not just talking about the state of Israel, but I'm talking about the people that descended from Jacob or Israel. In Scripture, we have actually 13 tribes. Now, we often talk about 12 tribes, but the truth is there were 12 actual tribes that had an inheritance in the land of Israel. And then there was another tribe, the tribe of Levi, that did not have an inheritance in the land, but that was scattered in the territory of all the other tribes, for a total of 13 tribes of Israel. The fact that there are 13 Star of David planetary alignments seems to me to point to all of the tribes of Israel. It seems to me that whatever this is saying, it's saying something having to do with all of the tribes of Israel, rather than just the Jews, who would be represented by one star, which would be the Star of Judah. Okay, so let's see now, as we follow the timeline, what it points to. Well, that continues down here. And after 2013, we get to 2014 and 2015. And this is when the tetrad moons occur. These also have to do with Israel, and they are very, very significant. What are tetrad moons? Well, they're 4 full moons in a row, and these are often blood moons or red moons. The dates in which these happen are forecast to occur on Passover of 2014, Sukkot of 2014, then Passover, this is in the spring of 2015, and Sukkot of 2015. 4 in a row. Now this is actually very unusual. Tetrads are very unusual. This first came to our attention through a news report, and let me share that with you. This is a news report from WorldNet Daily. As you can see, it's from April 30th, 2008. And we have been talking about this at Zion Ministry since that time. We have a lot of information, in fact, on this from our website. Essentially, here's where these tetrads were originally publicly reported. And as you can see in the headline, the speculation about this is this has to do with the second coming. Many people think that this tetrad points to the second coming of Messiah in 2015. There are many people that believe this. This is not the position that I hold, which I will explain to you momentarily. Now, unlike the planetary alignments, which I have not been able to verify, these tetrads I did verify. And I did that from the NASA website. And let me show that to you. Now, let me just say that what I'm showing you here, this is a supplement that I put together for the teaching that I did on this. And we have this available from our Zion website. And what you're seeing here is information that I simply cut and pasted from the NASA Eclipse website. And all of this information was just directly cut and pasted from their website. The interesting thing is that what you're seeing here is all of the tetrads from 1948 until the ones that are coming up in 2014, 2015. And there's only 3 sets of these. And these tetrads are all the same. There are 4 moons, eclipses, often blood red moons, that occur on Passover and Sukkot, and Passover and Sukkot. This is something that is a highly unusual phenomenon, and when it happens, it gets your attention. So, as you can see, during the 1948 to 1950 period, specifically in 1949 and 1950, we have the first of these tetrads. Then, before you get to them again, you get to 1967 and 1968. We have the same phenomenon again, and then the same thing is forecast to happen in 2014 and 2015, and this will not happen again in this century. Well, what does that mean? As we look at our illustration again, and we look at these tetrads, note that I put down some information. The first tetrad of 1949 and 1950 was during the period of the Israeli War of Independence. You might remember that Israel was made a nation in 1948 and immediately entered into war with their Arab neighbors who attacked them on every side. And over a period of time, finally they were able to come up with an armistice in 1949 and basically was secured in 1950. This is the period of the first tetrad. The next tetrad occurred in 1967 and 68. And this is the time period of the Six-Day War and its aftermath. This is the war in which Jerusalem was liberated. Now, both of these events are biblically significant events having to do with biblically significant wars. When we take that into consideration and we look at the coming tetrad of 2014 and 2015, it would be consistent with the other two that have happened in recent history to conclude it has to do with a war. And indeed, we are waiting for the next major war in Scripture, which we can call the Psalm 83 war. Here's a verse from Psalm 83:4. Come, they say, let's destroy them as a nation, that the name of Israel may be remembered no more. Psalm 83 describes a conspiracy of the nations to totally destroy Israel. Could something like that be in the works right now? Well, no doubt you've been watching the news. Certainly that is a possibility. Well, what would a purpose of such a war be? As we look at the scriptures, the Psalm 83 war is going to turn out very different for those who are attacking Israel than what they expect, because instead of destroying Israel, their scheme is going to fall back on their own head, and they themselves will experience a great destruction. A great destruction, which will result in putting Israel in a very much stronger position than Israel is in right now. No doubt even claiming a great deal more land than what they're claiming right now as a result of this coming war, the Psalm 83 war. Well, you might wonder why I would be interested in this, other than my interest for Israel. Well, if you look at this whole illustration here, and you kind of put this together, it makes a big picture that we could see from the Star of David planetary alignments. You see, since there have been 13 of them, this points to the complete nation of Israel. And one of the most unknown doctrines of Scripture, and yet one of the most certain and most talked about in all of the prophetic books of Scripture has to do with the return of the remnant of Israel to Israel in the last days. In fact, this happening is a major sign of the last days that Messiah is soon to return. Many people today look to the rapture as the big thing. They expect a pre-tribulation rapture. And as you saw, people are interpreting these tetrads as pointing forward to the rapture, whereas a sober consideration of the facts leads to a different conclusion, that it's really having to do with Israel and another major scriptural war that will be a game changer. That's what it's about. And particularly with all of these Star of David planetary alignments setting this tetrad up, it tells you 13 times in a row that this is about Israel. What more do you need? But it's not just about the state of Israel. That's what these 13 Star of David planetary alignments are saying. This is about the restoration of the nation of Israel. In other words, all of the tribes of Israel. The remnant from all of the tribes. And the Star of David actually points to the house of David, showing that these are messianic believers, in addition to being descendants of Jacob, descendants of Israel. These are messianic believers, believers in Messiah, the rightful king of the house of David. And so all of this in this moving timeline forward, culminating here with the tetrads, this would suggest to me that this is all about the remnant of the tribes of Israel returning home. And indeed, once this Psalm 83 war happens, and Israel now has more land to defend, they are going to need more people to defend it. This could very well bring about the conditions for the remnant of Israel to return to their own land. So this is seeming to indicate a real major event here in these last days, leading up eventually to the return of Messiah. However, everything prophesied in the scriptures must happen first, including the return of the remnant of Israel to their land. Now, you may never have heard of the remnant of Israel. You might not even know that the state of Israel and the Jews returning there are not the full fulfillment of the scriptures and what they promise. However, that doesn't mean that this doctrine is not something that is clearly taught in Scripture. However, it has been missed. It is something that must happen. And I believe that's what these signs in the sky are pointing to. Now let me tell you a little bit more about the remnant of Israel and how you can learn more about that, and how Yahweh is actually going to take the remnant of Israel to a place of safety in Israel in order to protect them from the things that are yet to come upon the earth. What you're looking at now is the Zion Road website at tsiyon.org. And this is the website of our 24/7, 365 radio station that is dedicated to last days remnant revelation. This radio station is on the air all the time, and you can listen to this message 24/7. You can listen right from the website, As you can see here, you can listen right from the website using a player on your computer. You can listen on satellite if you have a satellite system, and you can listen using mobile devices such as your Android, your Kindle, or really any other internet connected device. So you can listen to this message. Well, what will you hear when you listen? Here's the most recent program of mine. This is a special program for what we call a midrash, which is a study of the scriptures together with other people. This particular one is a 4-hour special, and it's on the remnant of Israel, the topic that we're talking about right now, going into what the scriptures have to say about the remnant of Israel. And here's the reason. This is more to us than some kind of a biblical doctrine. You see, what we're doing here at this website is we are preparing to go back to the special place that Yahweh is preparing for us in Israel to keep us safe during the events that soon are going to be falling upon the earth. That's what really this is all about. Now, we provide a lot at our website to help people take advantage of this. If you're thinking, well, I'm not of one of the tribes of Israel, I'm a Gentile, this doesn't apply to me. Oh yes, this does apply to you, because people who are not of the natural seed of Israel, nevertheless invited to join with us in our return to the place of safety that the God of Israel, Yahweh, has promised in Scripture to give to us through these end-time events that are yet to fall upon the earth. So you are very much invited to be a part of this, and this is deadly serious. Big things are going to be happening on the earth, not good things. And there is a place of safety. You know, a lot of people think that's the rapture, but they're very mistaken about that. Many of the things that they think are about the rapture are really about the return of the remnant of Israel to a place of safety in Israel. For instance, in this particular program here, you can see what it's about. It's about Judah and Joseph coming together, as it explains in the book of Genesis, and then how more is prophesied about that in Ezekiel 37. And what's illustrated here, the stick of Joseph and the stick of Judah. Joseph represented Joseph and the 10 tribes that stood with him, and Judah represents Judah and the tribes that stood with him. In this prophecy in Ezekiel, Yahweh said, take these 2 sticks representing these 2 houses of Israel and hold them together, and that these 2 sticks then would be 1 stick in his hand, in Yahweh's hand. He says, I will take the children of Israel from among the nations where they are gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land, and I will make them one nation in the land. This prophecy has not been fulfilled as yet, but it is prophesied for these last days. And our entire website is devoted to not only informing people about all the facts having to do with God's purpose for the remnant of Israel, but actually helping people be a part of this and to come and join the remnant of Israel and be ready and be in that place of safety in these last days. We invite you to come too, and just check out this information. Besides the website, we have some other things you might be interested in. For instance, this is my author page at Amazon, and you can see we have a number of books that you can get at Amazon, or you can click through at the website that will give you more information about these details. These are all things that are truly vital to you here in these last days, and this is the reason why we are bringing this to your attention. I hope you've enjoyed this brief video explaining about the Star of David planetary alignments and more about the significance that they have. We really have a lot more information on this topic at our website. If you're interested in finding out more, I've listed that here on this page, more on this topic. So please take your time, look into this. This is not a soundbite kind of ministry. We're really not looking for lots of people. What we're doing here is sharing the truth, and the truth takes some time and some digging. So I encourage you to come to the website, look for more information on signs in the sky, look for some of these links that we have here if you're interested more in the subject. Look on things from the book of Revelation for more information, things on the remnant of Israel. You can search all of these things. I think that you will be blessed with a lot of information from the scriptures that you probably have never heard before. Thank you for taking time to be with us for this video, and until next time, Shalom.